In the previous episode, Roberta and her group arrived at a cookie factory, intent on finding some cookies for the talkers to help them retain their humanity. But they were told by the staff that they were out of a special kind of flour. Thus, Roberta decided to head to Heartland to find the flour factory. As soon as they entered the small town, they discovered many bodies lying on the ground, all mercifully dispatched, indicating the town had also suffered a terrorist attack. They boldly made their way deeper, unaware of the many pairs of eyes that were watching them closely along the way. Just then, Addie spotted a talker. 10K saw this and immediately raised his gun for a shot. But in the next second he was stopped by Roberta. She suggested that the talkers might know something. They raised their hands, showing no ill will, trying to calm the talkers down. However, this move drew all the talkers closer, and they started to snarl at Roberta and her group.
What happens when talkers stop talking?
I'm guessing. Not good.
We don't want to hurt you!
Okay, back off, back off.
Hey, don't hurt them.
It's fine.
Just as they were about to be devoured, a car charged in from the side and skidded to a stop next to them. It was Doc and George. Without a second thought, they hurriedly climbed into the car, and Doc floored the accelerator, speeding away. After they left, Pandora appeared again, tempting the talkers to go after George.
Well, I know where you can find some nice, tasty brains. That's just waiting to be nibbled. Why don't you go after him?
The scene switches back to Roberta's group. They headed to a nearby farm to gather information, but as soon as they got out of the car, they found themselves surrounded by talkers. Thus, they had no choice but to hide inside a house. George then went to the window and saw the talkers congregating in the wheat field, strangely not turning into zombies despite not having consumed brains for so long. Just then, a talker appeared behind them, seemingly lucid. It turned out he had achieved self-sufficiency. Through conversation, they learned that the man was Charlie, one of the farm workers. He had been feeding his own brain to his colleagues to prevent them from turning into bloodthirsty zombies. Addie then asked Charlie what had happened here. Charlie said he wasn't sure as the brain where he stored that memory had been eaten by a colleague. Roberta asked if there were any other people around, which seemed to stump Charlie again. Left with no choice, they had to look for clues on their own. Doc found a bottle of high-proof alcohol in the warehouse. Doc, who loved his liquor, just had to try a bit and was astounded by its potency. Meanwhile, Addie, searching alone upstairs, suddenly heard a noise from inside a wardrobe. After pushing aside the clothes, she was surprised to find a man. It seemed they also knew each other. Next, Addie pinned Finn against the wall and demanded he take off his clothes.
Now what?
Kiss me.
Thought you never asked on Danes.
Finn, you bastard, you stood me up!
No!
I waited 2 days for you, I thought you were dead!
You know how it is, zombies.
It looked like a situation ripe for misunderstanding, but their relationship was evidently complicated. Finn then mentioned he had been accidentally wounded. Just as Addie was about to ask what happened, Finn passed out from excessive blood loss. On the other hand, 10K approached a pool to clean his wound. The prolonged fighting had aggravated his injury. Doc, seeing 10K's condition, felt sorry for him and decided to use the alcohol he found to disinfect the wound. Pouring the alcohol on the wound, 10K's expression twisted instantly. To ease the pain, he grabbed the remaining liquor and started chugging it. The alcohol, which was unbearable even in small sips, was completely down by 10K in one go. But just as 10K finished,
Everything okay?
soon after, Roberta heard some noise and went to check it out, only to have Doc assure her it was nothing serious, just 10K having had a bit too much to drink. After they got 10K settled down, Roberta spotted numerous talkers lurking outside the house. Right then, Addie came down the stairs, supporting Finn, and mentioned that Finn was injured and needed immediate medical attention. Upon hearing this, Doc swiftly administered emergency care to Finn, managing to stop the bleeding. During their conversation, they discovered that Finn was the farmer owning the land in this area. Finn bore a striking resemblance to Mac. No wonder Addie fell for him once again. They met while helping talkers. They'd been using Charlie's brain to maintain the humanity of the talkers, before Addie would send them to Murphy's place at the edge of hell. However, one day, their location was attacked, and Finn was accidentally shot, which forced him to hide. The controlled talkers were released, gradually turning into bloodthirsty zombies. In essence, It was all to stop them from continuing to produce flour. Finn then led Roberta and her group to the flour mill, which was now inoperable. It relied on upstream water power to function, but the water flow was cut off due to the last attack, and solving the water power issue was essential for flour production. They still had some wheat in stock, but before that, they needed to deal with the talker trouble. After a discussion, they decided to capture the talkers one by one. Upon hearing the plan, Doc and 10K changed into cowboy outfits, ready to capture all the talkers alive. This scene was spotted by Pandora from a distance, who prepared to thwart Roberta and her group's plans.
Looks like somebody wants to play cowboy. Let's send him a stampede.
Charlie rang a triangle to attract the nearby talkers, offering them their favorite delicacy, brain flowers. Then, Roberta and her team split up, determined to capture all the wandering talkers. Soon, attracted by the sound and the scent, the talkers came. To draw more talkers' attention, Charlie added hot sauce directly to his brain flour, making them even more irresistible to the talkers. Then, Finn and Addie, who were in hiding, started to ensnare the talkers. After capturing the talkers, Charlie immediately fed them a bite of the hot sauce-infused brain flour, which gradually calmed them down. The scene shifts to Doc, who just happened to spot a talker. He had just thrown his lasso, attempting to capture the talker, but, unexpectedly, Doc's skills were woefully inadequate. Not one to give up, Doc attempted again, only to fail once more.
Yippee-ki-yay!
Meanwhile, 10K, searching for targets in the wheat field, was unexpectedly ambushed by talkers who had been lying in wait. In a panic, 10K and talkers are caught in a web, and just when he can't hold on much longer, Doc hears the call for help and rushes over, knocking talkers out with a hammer blow. On the other hand, George and Roberta found a talker in the stables, but they didn't expect Talker to resist. George knocked him to the ground with an over-the-shoulder slam. Then, George and Roberta took the subdued talker outside. This scene was precisely witnessed by Pandora, who then prepared to shoot George on the spot. However, just as she was about to fire, 10K spotted Pandora from behind. Bizarrely, 10K did not recognize Pandora for who she was, mistaking her for a talker herder instead. Pandora's accomplice approached 10K from behind, and the two immediately started fighting. Despite being one-handed, 10K's combat ability was undiminished, but when Pandora joined the fight, 10K was overwhelmed. Under their relentless assault, 10K was quickly subdued. The man even puts 10K's hook in his mouth and tries to finish him off. At the critical moment, Doc appeared just in time, knocking the man down with an electric baton. After helping 10K up, Doc planned to lock up these two talkers, completely oblivious to Pandora's true identity. Soon, they had captured all the talkers on the farm and prepared to feed them brain flowers to restore their human consciousness. Meanwhile, Pandora and her accomplice, hiding nearby, pulled out cookies from their pocket, clearly indicating they were behind the attack on the cookie factory. Doc had finished feeding the talkers, but Charlie's brain had been hollowed out. To save everyone, he sacrificed his own life. When he was done, Doc saw that Charlie was in bad shape and helped him to sit down. Everyone looked at the teetering Charlie with heavy hearts. He was a hero in this moment.
We saved them all because of you.
That's good. Can I have my mercy now?
Goodbye, Charlie.
Bye, Finn. Goodbye, whoever the rest of you are.
Bye, Charlie.
Have mercy.
Seeing Charlie's death, they all felt bad and hoped that Charlie could be reincarnated into a better world. At this time, the talkers also began to mourn Charlie. Later, they gathered to discuss and eventually decided to leave Finn to care for the talkers. Once the talkers were able to move, they would be taken to Murphy's place at the edge of hell. Roberta and the others went to the mountains to investigate the water source. After seeing them leave, Pandora resumed her plan. Roberta and her group had just left when they heard gunshots coming from the farm. Roberta instructed Doc and 10K to continue forward while they went back to the farm to investigate. Upon their arrival, they found Finn lying in a pool of blood. Addie then helped Finn under a tree. Finn explained that he was suddenly attacked by two talkers, who also released all the other talkers. Hearing this, Roberta and George rushed to the wheat field to capture the roaming talkers. During the capture mission, George even brushed shoulders with Pandora. Soon after, Finn succumbed to excessive blood loss and died, but a second later, he came back to life as a talker.
8 years. Every day since day one, I've been afraid. And now I'm not.
Addie then fed Finn a piece of brain flour to keep him as conscious as possible. By the time Roberta and George had finished capturing the talkers and returned, they reported that 2 talkers were still missing, likely the ones who had attacked him. Seeing Finn transformed into a talker, Roberta breathed a sigh of relief. Being alive as a talker wasn't the worst outcome. Just as they were about to regroup with Doc and the others, Addie decided to stay with Finn, wanting to accompany him in transporting the talkers to Murphy's place. Roberta thought it was a good idea and then set off with George. Meanwhile, Doc and 10K had already reached the foot of the mountain, sitting and waiting for Roberta and the others, but in the next second, an accident occurred.
You gotta be kidding. Doc!
When Doc and 10K woke up again, they discovered they were tied to stakes, with a talker constantly talking beside them.
But they see you, and then arrow in your arm. Saboteurs! Saboteurs! Saboteurs!